I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Kate O'Brien. I'm the director of the Department of Immunization, Vaccines, and Biologicals at WHO. I know many of you, very familiar faces. Some of you, it's a new introduction. I'm incredibly excited for this forum that we're hosting beginning tonight. And we are welcoming over 25 organizations and people from dozens and dozens of countries to join in this co-creation exercise. In order for us to harness the value of vaccines and the promise that they afford us, we need to reshape how we work for this new decade. And so what we're embarking on over these 3 days is a co-creation exercise to generate, to create this new vision and strategy for this oncoming decade, with countries firmly at the center of that strategy and impact as our lighthouse and guiding light. And we need to keep that very clear-eyed lens of country impact, what it is that ministries of health really need to do, what ministries want, and what we as partners are also supporting in that enterprise. So the objective of this forum is really to come out of this 3 days with a draft zero document that lays out that vision and strategy so that it can be shared forward in the coming months with country colleagues, partner colleagues, and mature that strategy into a document that can make its way to full endorsement by WHO in 2020.
Because immunization is a public health strategy in my country and is considered one of the best investments in health. 10 years down the road, we managed to approve the roadmap. But that doesn't mean it was a victory of Brazil or of developing countries, because the world changed very much. Access to medicine and to vaccines became a problem of everyone, every region, every country, rich or poor. Everyone had a problem of access to medicine. And the fact that medicines and vaccines are cross-cutting issues, they permeate any area of health, gives you the importance of this issue. So you have in your hands, when you discuss access to vaccines, a challenge to continue changing the world. Medicines and vaccines should not be given only to those who have the money to buy, but to those who need. And I think this is the contribution of the roadmap. In your exercise, as the post-2020 discussion starts, my ask is that you take into account the roadmap, but also the experience of the BRICS, the experience of PAHO, the experience of Brazil, and the experience of other countries that have delivered good practices with access to vaccines and production of vaccines.
In each instance, in every setting, no matter the context, regardless of the actor or stakeholder, irrespective of the challenge that we are striving to overcome, wherever people are involved, there too you find human rights. And thus duties to ensure those rights are protected, respected and fulfilled. As you set out a vision and a strategy for vaccinations and immunisation on to 2030, human rights must be understood as prevailing in all settings for all populations. And thus, they can and they should be providing you with normative, legal and ethical confidence, clarity and certitude. Rights. There's no purpose to healthcare, and specifically none for vaccines and immunisation, unless people are at the centre. We have an obligation to protect. And this includes the rights of those who carry the duty to provide those services, and thus the obligations of those who carry the responsibility to enable those professions to be practiced in an evidence-based way. Given that vaccination is the most effective and cost-effective, for that matter, medical intervention through which collective and individual immunisation is achieved, ensure that it is provided to the standards which are now familiar for the right to health, available in sufficient quantities, accessible physically and economically, adequate in quality, supported by accurate, comprehensive information, provided in a manner both acceptable and adaptable to local context. And here I want to highlight it is the dignity of the person receiving care and the dignity of the provider of care that is your business. There is no such thing as a right to refuse vaccines when the consequences of doing so is to be borne by others in such a way as that consequence undermines those others' rights, including their right to health. What is further made clear and central by international human rights standards is that where our policies impact directly on the vulnerable and specifically on the child, it is the best interest of the child that must prevail. The best interests of that child. Not some children, not my children, not your children, not their children, but all children. And in this sense, international standards which adjudicate power and powerlessness and that relationship creates first for parents and carers a responsibility, an obligation first to the rights of the child. But stand up alongside others for international norms and standards. Stand up for evidence, however inconvenient the facts might be to power, however confronting. Stand up for our rights to evidence-based public policy and to our right, enshrined incidentally in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, to share in scientific advancement and its benefits. That too is a human right.
It's paper, paper, and paper. Most of you know this, is like obviously when you have health clinics without walls and a tropical storm comes in, you know how the quality of your records will continue after that. Now, what can we actually do to actually make this better usable, both for an organization like us, because we actually need the data, we want to improve how we actually organize the program, for the government, because they want to know what's actually going on, as well as for the doctors or workers in the health clinic to actually process this better. And what they came up with after this, so they came to one of our boot camps, then they actually piloted something after a 6-month period, which is now looking like this. The card that one of the moms otherwise carry, you see here, that's an example. There were only 2 clinic visits before, so after 2 weeks, that's how the card looks like. And what we replace it with is a near-field communication card that you can tap the phone with. And it's very interesting because it's coming from exactly what Kate mentioned, this human perspective. We need to think about the people. So in this case, we're replacing the paper card with just this plastic card for the mother. And when she's actually coming in, she just taps, or the doctor taps the phone, doctor keys in the new status, and it also already calculates the new health status, and it even automatically unlocks benefits like conditional cash benefits on the card that then they can redeem in a shop to buy special nutritious food.
And then the next question is, of course, then how do we ensure that we can have access to those new vaccines, both for the rich and for the poor? And we have experiences how we have models with differentiated prices. We have Gavi then coming in as a key partner, but to thinking more in terms of how can we also work with the market, so the market actually can produce the vaccines, both on the research side and on the production side, enabling access across the world. How do we get more healthy vaccine markets? How do we get diversification? When I was at the Gavi board, we spoke a lot about that we need to have a broad range of producers. It's good, both for capacity. I've been getting back a bit to Gavi now again. I realized that there is a lack of actually supply. There is a lack of production of certain vaccines. And of course, that's an issue. It's an issue for not being able to deliver on the programs, but it's also an issue around on the price side. So if we don't have the intelligence and the intelligent way of working with the vaccine market, we have issues. That is sort of the empowerment of people. Because ultimately, one of the key important strategies for the way forward is to ensure that people are empowered, feel empowered to be able to make more healthy choices. Why is it so that a mother decides to go to the health center and have her child immunized? That sort of dynamic, that complexity, that psychology in the societies is something that we need to understand better. And we need to really address. The culture. Your sort of nearest peoples, what do they think? Are the mother in the next house, your community, do they think that this is important? Is it cool to go for McDonald's, or is it cool to go for that healthy food stuff? Do I feel welcome to go to that place and eat there instead of going to that place? The social values and the cultures, I would say that's the most important one. And those then, there you have the opportunity, and you should also, your business case positioning, the value proposition of immunization, you have an important entry point because you are already doing this. But please, think beyond immunization, because we need to empower people to make more healthy decisions. The only way, and I will finish here, to do this, that is, of course, to work together. And fantastic to see all the organizations that are here, countries that are here. My experience, again, from Sierra Leone was that when we work in a partnership, but still with quite clear roles and responsibility, then we can be very effective. But then when you trickle down, when it comes to the implementation, again, there are certain things that WHO can do, there are certain things that UNICEF can do, there are certain things that CDC can do, just to name 3 of you. And then, of course, Gavi being then a big financer when it comes to the low and middle income countries. And you have an extremely important, again, value proposition here. Because by immunizing a child or a person, they will have you're contributing to long and healthy lives. It's not just surviving, but it's also staying healthy. And the goal is really about ensuring that you can stay healthy, not just survive.